Well, hello dear chaps, and welcome to my main event review from England. Yes, this episode of Main Event was from England, April 24, 2013. So the show starts off with JBL in the ring and talking about how one individual has been just demolishing everybody in the WWE, including Sheamus. So we go to a couple of video packages from the last couple of weeks showing Mark Henry destroying Sheamus. So then Mark Henry comes out for this interview. And this is where it gets a little bit funny because, Mark Henry's like, yeah, I heard about Sheamus saying it's not about the size or how big. Well, it does matter, because that's what I do. And then JBL is like, yeah, I'm your biggest fan. That's what you do. That's what you do. And Mark Henry takes that JBL is mocking Mark Henry. So then JBL goes into, why don't you have a match tonight? And he's like, okay, I'll have a match. But it keeps going on, like, how about you face two men? And he's like, yeah, okay, I'll do that. Well, you know what? Big Show was impressive. He beat three men. And he's like, you think Big Show's better than me? I could do better. I could beat four men. In fact, I'll do a gauntlet. So Mark Henry has basically set himself up to do a gauntlet, to run the gauntlet. So, who comes out first? The Usos. But it's done in singles competition. So it is Jimmy Uso who faces Mark Henry. And Jimmy Uso has no chance. It's just a complete squash. World's Strongest Slam. 1, 2, 3. Mark Henry continues the gauntlet. So Jey Uso goes up next. And Jey does a better job. He gets a little bit of offense in. Including a nice super kick on the Mark Henry. And the running butt to the corner on the Mark Henry. But eventually Henry comes back. Hits him with the World's Strongest Slam. 1, 2, 3. Mark Henry continues the gauntlet. So, Mark Henry has beaten both Usos. Who's contestant number 3? Excuse me. Well, it's Santino Marella. Santino Marella, before he gets in, does a little prayer, and JBL says, he's gonna need some faith in this one. And Mark Henry controls this match for most of it, but Santino does get a little bit of offense, and he does fight back. He even hits Mark Henry with the Cobra, which, I'm going to say it again anyway, it's just a sock puppet. You guys don't need to pay to get a sock puppet. All you got to do is just put a sock on your hand, call it a Cobra. But anyway, Santino does hit the Cobra on Mark Henry, gets a 2 count before Henry presses him off, and Santino goes to the floor. So Santino climbs the top rope, going to attempt to hit the Cobra again, but Henry catches him, hits him with the World's Strongest Slam. 1, 2, 3, Mark Henry continues on the gauntlet. So, he's beaten 3 men. He said he can beat 4. Who's the 4th man? Well, it's none other than the Great Khali. So this is a little bit interesting. Khali and Mark Henry. These guys have had a bit of a rivalry in the past. So, how does this one go? Well, Henry takes the advantage again early on in the bout, but Khali does come back, and it goes back and forth for the last couple of minutes. Khali does hit him with a boot and then a Khali chop, only to get a 2 count. But Henry does manage to come back to hit the World's Strongest Slam. 1, 2, but Khali manages to get his foot on the bottom rope, which was surprising. I thought Henry would just win that one. But Khali would come back after Henry attempted a splash from one corner to the other when Khali brought his boot up, and then Khali chops him over the head again. Henry rolls to the outside of the ring. He decides he's had enough. He leaves. Great Khali wins as a result of a count out. So Mark Henry loses the gauntlet match. So then we get then we see what happened on Raw, where Triple H accepts Paul Heyman and Brock Lesnar's challenge for a steel cage match at Extreme Rules. So after commercial, we come back. Matt Striker is on the stage, and he is with Zeb Coulter. And they talk about the triple threat match that isn't going to happen at Extreme Rules. So Coulter says how Swagger's odds have not lessened. But yet, when you take a look at Alberto Del Rio, he talks about him. And then he talks about Dolph Ziggler, which I found funny because he's like, what kind of a man bleaches his hair blonde? I know I don't. I know you don't. And then he quotes Thomas Paine, who left England to come to the United States, and he says how Jack Swagger is going to prove to everyone what kind of a man he is when he faces Del Rio on SmackDown in a no disqualification match, which Swagger, for no reason whatsoever, comes out, pushes Striker away, and says, "We the people," over and over and over and over again. And then we get a video package of what happened on Raw between John Cena and Ryback, and then after the commercial break, the last couple of minutes of the 6-man tag with Undertaker and Team Hell No against The Shield, and that's your episode of Main Event. Now, I have to say that the Gauntlet, it was fun. It was fun to watch. I mean, not the greatest ever, but if you consider Mark Henry attempting to beat 4 individuals to show how big and bad he is, and he almost did it too. I would have had him go over with Khali, in my opinion, but that's just me. I liked how he was somewhat goaded into it. JBL denied throughout the whole Gauntlet that he goaded Mark Henry into doing it. And, Mark Henry not winning at the end, I felt that was a little bit of a disappointment. I thought Henry should have won the Gauntlet, but that's just me. And it was a decent show, for the England crowd, and it wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad of a show with a theme for the Gauntlet. So that's my thoughts, and those are my opinions and review of this episode of Main Event.